Everybody, welcome back to Lettermen Row. I am Austin Ward. That's Jeremy Birmingham and Spencer Holbrook. No bearing the lead here. The game is canceled. This is a historic game in this historic storied rivalry. Michigan had to pull the plug after positive tests continued to run through their program. They notified Ohio State about 1 o'clock on Tuesday afternoon, right in the middle of media availability for the Buckeyes while they were preparing. They had spent a couple days getting their hopes up, maybe some optimism that Michigan was returning and going to be able to handle their outbreak the same way that Ohio State did last week and protect the game and keep it played as it has been every year since 1918. That will not happen. Before we talk about what's next, Berm, is somebody who has lived and breathed and been around this rivalry for your entire life. What's sitting with you right now?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, I'll be a broken record. It's just the way that the Big Ten handled this since August put no flexibility in it, and you knew that there were going to be opportunities for this to happen. That said, I think the Big Ten has a couple different options of how they can rectify the situation, and I hope that they're willing to look at it. First and foremost is you call Northwestern and you say, sorry, no matter what, you're playing Ohio State this Saturday, and then play Michigan and Ohio State next Saturday on the 19th. And, call this weekend the championship game, and then let the Big Ten, the real game of the Big Ten schedule, get played next Saturday in Columbus anyway. Or, as we've talked about, Ohio State could potentially end up playing Maryland. There's so many emotions about it that go into it because this game means so much more to people than just a football game. And in a year when people have needed an umbrella to cover from the falling poop from everywhere, you figured it was probably coming, but the poop storm continues, and it's pretty terrible.
Yeah, so this is both a rapid reaction to the game being canceled, historically so, also a practice report because the Buckeyes are going to go back out on the field this afternoon. They are hoping to play somebody this week. Again, kind of played around with it that the game was this week, but any game would do for the Buckeyes because as I've reported and as we've talked about here, the Big Ten is currently not willing or expecting to change the 6-game minimum requirement, which is why we're having this conversation about the league needing to do something to step in and make sure that the Buckeyes could play on Saturday. What exactly they will do in terms of the schedule, or if they decide just to change and prepare for December 19th and have Ohio State play Northwestern, who knows? This all is very early, but those are the options that have been spelled out. Michigan was trying to practice on Monday and Tuesday. If they could get to Wednesday, they would have moved forward trying to play the game. Otherwise, you're looking at other cancellations, trying to get a rescheduled game for Ohio State against Maryland, which has always been the most likely backup option. But you also have Plan C, where if the Big Ten doesn't want to, penalize Rutgers for doing everything right and lose their game against Maryland, then you have to somehow find a way to reward your 3-time Big Ten Conference champion and your best college football playoff contender by changing that minimum requirement since they beat Indiana. I know that is a lot to throw out there all at once, but there are a lot of balls in the air and a lot of moving parts here, Spencer.
Yeah, and you don't really know what to think right now because you don't know what's going on in that meeting room. There were times where we thought we had the Big Ten pegged and understood what they were doing in August, September, and October, and we had no idea. So you just don't really know where the mindset of the commissioner, all of the athletic directors are. You would expect, for example, like in Indiana to fight, we've won games and we've been able to stay healthy. We deserve a chance at the Big Ten championship. So there's going to be those kind of discussions, I can imagine. There's just a lot to dissect here, and you don't really know where to turn yet because it's very fresh. We were expecting to talk about the Ohio State-Michigan rivalry and what this means for Ohio State on this show, and now we get to talk about scenarios that we have no clue what the conversations are like right now.
Yeah, that took a strange turn. Justin Hilliard was right in the middle of, I think he had just sat down, had maybe taken 1 or 2 questions, and then
he talked about how he prepares for Michigan his whole life, and then he was told the game is canceled, and you could see a ghost on his face.
Yeah, that's, also for those of us that cover Ohio State or Michigan, we are aware of the importance of this to our audience, how important it is to get a chance to cover it. It's a special game. There's nothing like it. And I think that's why I wanted to ask you, Berman, about just the emotional part of it first, because obviously we're going to have plenty of opportunity later on today, tomorrow, Thursday, if Ohio State has a game, to talk about how, what the Big Ten has done, what that means for the playoff or the Big Ten race. But, this is a momentous day when you're talking about something that's been going on for 100 years. And now that streak is over, and it could have been played in week 1. There was talks about that when they rebuilt the schedule. That second Jenga version had Ohio State, Michigan in the middle of it, and there was so much people were talking about the history. You can't play it in week 1. You can't play it. It's got to be the last week of the regular season. Well, I mean, if it's important to play it, this is another example of the Big Ten getting it wrong, where they just lost their most valuable property.
Yeah, and again, I mean, they could have just done anything different, and anyone with foresight would have realized that the opportunity for illnesses and positive tests to be higher in December should have been able to figure that out pretty quickly. I mean, that's the way it works in the world. But, from just an emotional standpoint, you could see it, like I said, in Justin Hilliard's face when he got told that. I mean, he was like, I don't believe that. I don't want to believe that. And, Ryan Day was asked about it in his press conference portion today and said, I'm not going to think about that. He said, if you're asking the question, you know how much it means to even think about it being canceled. And all these kids came back to Ohio State with one thing in mind, and that was to have a chance to redeem themselves after the Clemson loss last year. And part of that, and a huge part of everything at Ohio State, is Michigan. And to lose that opportunity, maybe just temporarily, we don't know. The Big Ten's unwillingness to bend in any way, shape, or form, I guess, will be put to the test here, because they are supposed to be having their athletic department heads, on a phone call tomorrow morning, and they'll make some decisions.
This cannot wait until tomorrow morning. Oh.
Well, no, certainly the league is going to have to decide, are they going to take this seriously or not? Because you can't wait until tomorrow to decide if you're going to remove the 6-game limit. You can't wait till tomorrow to give Ohio State a chance to reach out to teams outside of the league if you're going to change that rule, which I don't think that they're going to do. And you can't wait until tomorrow if you're the Big Ten and you're going to unilaterally tell Rutgers, hey, you have to go play someone else this week, or Purdue, canceling their practice on Tuesday. You don't know. Maybe is Ohio State going to play Indiana again? I mean, they just need to know, because the Buckeyes have to play a game this Saturday, and people need to know where it's going to be and who they're playing against. And the league is once again being put squarely in the spotlight for entirely the wrong reason.
And, to your point there, the reason and that pressure that exists is because of all these other decisions they made that were costing the league money. And I hate how that sounds, that this is what it boils down to for a sport where a completely different conversation about the players not being paid. But with all of these jobs being impacted, the revenue of no one being in the stadium, the only thing you have is your television deal. And Ohio State is the most valuable property in the Big Ten. And Ohio State against Michigan is the biggest game of the year. Fox drafts it first. At the first opportunity it gets, it pays extra to have that big noon game. So the potential for reason that we're talking about this, like Fox is telling Michigan, if you can play, you need to play. And the same will be true for what they'll tell the league office. If Ohio State is ready to play, you need to let them play. It will be right here in our marquee broadcast window, and you'll get, whoever plays gets $5 million or whatever it is just for one game that's on television. The schools need that. So, that tells you that Michigan's situation is definitely out of control if they're willing to walk away from that amount of money. If they could play, they would play. We're not going to put on any tinfoil hats here. They're not dodging Ohio State. COVID has hit their program and they couldn't control it. But Fox will simply not allow the big noon kickoff 2 weeks in a row, December 12th and December 19th, to not have Ohio State be part of it when they are the best team in the league. That's just a simple fact.
Yeah, you can't do it. You can't do it. And you can't leave your television partner out to dry like that, because Fox has poured so many resources and so much money. And again, like you said, Austin, I kind of hate to look at this through green colored glasses with all the money that we're talking about, but you really cannot leave Fox out to dry with this. The athletic directors, the commissioner, they all have to come together and really figure out what they're going to do, because if they don't, then you're going to have a lot of issues when you come back to the negotiating table, whenever that may be, because there are different times where you can extend contracts, and you lose all leverage if you lose both Ohio State, Michigan, and Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game. And right now, as it currently stands on Tuesday afternoon at 2:00, they've lost both of them. So there has to be something done here in the next, I would say, 12 to 18 hours to get this thing rectified.
And again, that's part of the other argument, which is more important to, Ryan Day or the Buckeyes and that are in the Woody, which is the competitive aspect, which of course they want to play. They wanted to play Michigan. They will play anybody. They want to win the Big Ten championship. They're in position to do so. And as Berm said, they came back with the goal to get back to the college football playoff and win the national championship. For the Big Ten to maintain, after all of these decisions, any credibility for their championship, they have to make the steps so that the two best teams and the only teams that are possible to win the East have a chance to win it fairly on the field. And then you don't have to raise any questions of, oh, you just made the rules and kowtow to Ohio State. That's not what this is about. There's a financial discussion. B, you can, or 1A, however you want to put it. There's also, are you going to continue to be taken seriously as a football conference? And I know that sounds very stupid to people in the midst of a pandemic, and I'm not trying to elevate it above that in any conversation. But from what we're talking about here, in terms of competitiveness and continuing to guarantee that there's a Big Ten football conference as we know it moving forward, this is the opportunity that you have to act. You have no choice. You can't just sit on your hands.
Yeah, and then, it's also maybe potentially unfair to Ohio State to have to play Indiana again, but maybe that's what has to happen. The Buckeyes are certainly not going to be afraid of anyone or try to duck out of any game. But as we said, we're in a very tight window here, like Justin Fields throwing the ball to Chris Olave down the sideline type of tight window to get this to happen. And something needs to be done within the next, like Spencer said, 18 hours. I mean, it's 2:00 on Tuesday. For anyone who's hoping to cover a football game this weekend, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, us, we need to know where the hell we're going. We need to have these things in place. And it just seems like the league, again, I said it after the Illinois debacle, the Illinois cancellation, whatever you want to call it, that the league knew that this was going to come up at some point. And the fact that they don't have contingency plans already in place is just another indictment into the leadership of the league. And certainly I agree. It has long-term ramifications for the conference when it comes to their standing in the world of college athletics.
I doubt that Kevin Warren is very concerned about UNI's travel plans this week, Berm, but certainly Ryan Day would like to put in a game plan, and this extends to everyone else in the Big Ten. There have to be dominoes that fall. There's no way to deny that at this point because the game is canceled. This is a huge, huge deal, and the fallout is going to be significant. We're going to try and wrap our minds around it the best we can and provide the most up-to-date information that we can about Ohio State and where they go from here on Lettermen Row. This has been the Byers Auto Practice Report / Rapid Reaction. That's Jeremy Birmingham and Spencer Holbrook. I am Austin Ward. Stick with us. Whenever we have more information for you, we'll bring it to you at lettermenrow.com.